Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a review on a vehicle that requires no real introduction. You probably already know everything about this because everybody and their mother has done a review on it, but here we go. Exhaustsports Auto, I have acquired the new 2019 Ford Raptor for a week to review for you guys. There's really no other way to say it, but this is essentially the best truck in the world. This thing is such a beast, it's not even funny. Most people won't even be able to utilize 3% of what this thing can actually do, myself included. But that doesn't matter. Let's take a look at that exterior first. This thing looks absolutely stupendous. The best looking truck out there right now. And this vehicle legitimately has no competition. Nobody does an off-road truck like what Ford does with the Raptor. Yes, there are some other, little cutesy little things that are out there right now, but not like the Raptor. That's because Ford sells over 1 million of these things, so they have the money to piss away on a little project such as the Raptor. The stance on this thing, it's so wide, it's over 7 feet wide, and it just looks so imperial rolling down the road. I mean, it looks so mean in the rear view mirror. I mean, people just get out of the way. It's amazing. And people always point at it. Everybody loves it. They love to point at it. They love to give you thumbs up on the road. It's an extraordinary vehicle. It really, really is. And this vehicle, as you probably already know, this is not some kind of a gimmick. This is not some hype machine. This thing is legit. It is for real. Even some of the exterior components that you see, like the hood scoop, all that is functional, as well as some of the gills, little vent work on the side. Everything on this vehicle is functional. The massive skid plates, they are all purpose built for this vehicle to go off-roading in. And this vehicle comes with the cast wheels, but my preference, of course, is the 17-inch bead-locked wheels, which is amazing for off-road because you can let the air pressure out without the tire essentially coming off when you're going off-road. So that's great. I think we've talked enough about the exterior. Let's get into how this thing drives. What is it really like on the road? Well, be prepared to drive one of the most confidence-inspiring trucks that you will probably ever drive. This thing is so composed. I have so much confidence behind the wheel of this thing. It's crazy. And really the only intimidating factor about driving this truck is really the width of it. I mean, once you get over that, this truck is a breeze to drive. I mean, after about like 15 minutes of me driving it on the street, I got used to it. I'm like whipping this thing around, in and out of traffic like a sports car. I have no issues driving this thing whatsoever. I even had it through some really tight downtown areas. I was able to manage it, no problems. Usually when I get into trucks, you can do one of these and the thing will still go straight. This has such a connected steering, and there are obviously modes to control the steering. You have a sport mode, you have a comfort mode, you have a normal mode. I always leave this thing in comfort mode, the steering anyway. And that's because the steering feels the most natural in comfort mode. When you have it in any other mode, like in sport mode, it just makes it way too heavy for like no apparent reason, like it does in most cars. It's just so extra, I hate it. But once you take it out of sport mode and you put it into the comfort or normal modes, it feels so fluid, so natural. The body control is absolutely amazing. I really wasn't expecting anything like this. I mean, I had it out on the highways, I had it on the on-ramps, and I really took those on-ramps at some serious speed, and it handled itself so well. I think a lot of why this thing feels so solid and so planted is because Ford actually increased the rigidity of the chassis and all that, primarily to do, jumps really for off-roading. I think that also translated into the road because this drives so well. It's so composed. Yes, there's obviously still body roll, but you can't alleviate that completely. I mean, this is still an off-road vehicle. It has, 13-inch travel up front and 13.9 inches travel in the back on the suspension. So it's tuned really well for both that off-road use and for the street because it turns in excellently. I've never driven a truck that handles this well. Some other things you can expect while you live with it or daily drive it is, I had it out on the highways quite a bit, and doing 70, 75 miles an hour, you're going to get a ton of wind noise, which is to be expected really in most of these trucks, but it felt so composed on the highways doing those speeds that, man, it just overall is just a great feeling truck. Man, it is an awesome truck to drive. You feel like an absolute boss behind the wheel. Everybody loves you when you drive this thing. It's a great feeling. It really is. And I would love to daily drive this, honestly. And what Ford is really known for as of lately is their all aluminum body. So actually this generation Raptor sheds about 500 pounds over the previous generation, the V8 Raptor, which is a lot of weight. And all of these things coupled with their incredible steering and increased stiffness in the chassis just translates into an amazing, confidence inspiring truck. Brakes is another thing about this truck that I really like. It feels natural. Again, everything about this truck feels that way. But these brakes, they stop really well, actually. For around a 5,500 to 5,700 pound truck, I'm really impressed with the braking capabilities of it. Now, let's talk a bit more about the suspension. We talked about the drive. The suspension is the same as it is in most trucks, a double wishbone up front with a solid rear axle in the rear with the leaf springs. That hasn't changed. Now, I think everybody knows that these things come with the Fox Racing shocks and all that. For 2019, the biggest change that they made over the 2017, 2018 is that they went to a electronically dampened live racing shocks, or whatever they call it now. So they electronically adjust in real time. So it's essentially got the adaptive shocks on it now. The purpose of it is so that it rides even better on the street and perform even better off-road than the previous 17 and 18 Raptors. I have not driven the 17 and 18 Raptors, so I can't really comment on the performance of these shocks over that generation, but my sneaking suspicion, my gut feeling is that they've made no difference. That's usually how it is with these adaptive shocks. They usually don't really do much of anything. I've heard some people say that it rides better, some say that it rides worse. What I can tell you is that this truck rides amazing, and that shouldn't come to anybody's surprise because all trucks ride amazing, especially now the newer ones. I mean, this Raptor is no exception. This rides so well over every type of pavement. Speed bumps, you don't even feel them. This thing just eats up miles without any issues whatsoever. This is the least fatiguing car. I can see why a lot of people with money like to buy these, because this is a really badass daily driver. I know that sounds weird to say, but it's true. This is a really cool vehicle to daily drive in because it is just so comfortable. But if you're done relaxing, you can put your foot down and do one of these numbers. The acceleration in this truck is, I have mixed feelings about it. Yes, the power figures in this is really strong, 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. Those are some really healthy numbers. However, this is a twin-turbo V6. Now, a lot of people like to absolutely bash on this engine, and I have no idea why, because this motor is great. I actually have nothing against this engine. I actually really like it. I think it fits the personality of this truck really well. It reminds me of like those turbo diesel trucks, the way the turbo sound kicks in and all that. What I do have a bit of an issue with is actually this 10-speed automatic transmission. Now, this 10-speed, I'm just gonna say it, this has way too many gears, and I think most people know that. It is so unnecessary. I can see why they did it. It's so that you can get better fuel efficiency, and it's not really helping in that regards because I'm getting about 13 mpg. So it's not helping with fuel efficiency. And what happens around town is that this thing gear hunts like crazy. Like right now I'm doing like 50 miles an hour and it's like a 9th gear right now. I mean, that is ridiculous. So when I want some power, there's like this two-step hesitation. First, because it's turbocharged, so twin turbocharged, so it's got the turbo lag to deal with, and also these ridiculous amounts of gears as it jump down. So that's 2 steps of hesitation. Now, I'm okay with like 1 step of delay, like either the transmission or the engine, but I don't really enjoy 2. Now, what you can do is, maybe change it into sport mode, which this vehicle does have, and immediately the revs shoot up to 2,000 like it does in every sport mode in every car. So essentially now you're using twice the gas mileage than what you would usually use. But the problem is, even though to alleviate some of that turbo lag because you're in the proper RPMs now, once you do step on it, it'll take a while for it to kick back down to like 2,000 RPM. It'll kind of hover around 3,500 and it'll go down to like 3,000. It just doesn't perform well in sport mode. It just makes the engine kind of sound stupid because it feels like it's in the wrong gear or something. I just don't like it. But what you can do is plop it into the manual mode and then use these paddles. These paddles actually work really well. The truck reacts really well to the paddles, and the paddle shifters themselves are pretty awesome. They're huge, and the action is really nice when you click them, but I just feel stupid using that. I mean, I don't use it. I just put in the normal mode and just cruise around in it. This truck definitely has balls, but just, as long as you don't, stomp on it, you won't really experience any problems. This truck is best used when you just kind of ease into the throttle and then slowly let it build up. The truck will kind of surge off, and that's really the best way to drive this truck. Have it in normal and just don't punch the gas pedal. Just kind of ease into it, and you'll see the speedometer just climbing and climbing. So that's really the sweet spot of this engine and the best way to really utilize it. Now, what is this truck really? What it is it's a toy. Let's be honest. This is a toy truck. This is something that you buy for pleasure. You're not going to buy this and use it for work. This is not that type of vehicle. So this is obviously not something that you need. I mean, you don't need anything. You got 2 legs. You can walk yourself to the bus stop. So you don't need this. What you do is you want this. You want a Raptor. You want the name. You want the prestige of this thing. You want to know that you can go anywhere in it, or you can cross a mountain or an ocean in it. That's what you want, really. And the looks, of course. But there are ways in which you can justify this. Even if you're not some millionaire, you can somewhat kind of sort of justify this if you're making kind of okay money. And this thing has amazing resale value. The resale value on this thing is absolutely ridiculous. I was looking at a 50,000 mile Raptor 2017 one, and it was going for $55,000. This thing starts at 55 grand, and it still holds so much of its value. I think the previous gen Raptor, the V8 one, they were saying that after 2 years, it still held 88% of its value. That's just crazy. And for that reason alone, you can kind of buy this, as stupid as it sounds, as like this cool daily driver for your family. Yes, this thing gets really poor fuel efficiency, but I think the depreciation of it, the fact that it doesn't really depreciate that much, you can really justify owning this thing for a couple of years. Now, what you have to understand though, with this truck, if you're buying this and you're going to keep it for a little while, the reason why it can do a lot of the things that it does is because, well, a lot of this stuff is electronically controlled. That's why it can do the things that it does. It's similar to like a Dodge Demon or something like that. That car is that fast because it's got all the electronic aids helping it put the power down. This is much the same, all the little modes that it has, the Baja, the rock crawl, and all that stuff. That's why it does what it does. So in the long run, you're probably going to have to deal with all those electronic components. That stuff may go wrong in the future, and you're gonna have to deal with it. But this thing does come with a warranty, which is the best part of this truck. A lot of people, they want to buy a truck, they want to make it look like a Raptor. That's kind of the dream. You get a Raptor out of the box looking like this with the performance that it has. And when you go and try to build your own Raptor, out of your Silverado or your F-150 or your Dodge Ram, it'll never perform like a Raptor, and you'll probably void your warranty trying to build your own Raptor. So there's that as well. And your little suspensions and parts and stuff, it'll never ever compare to what Ford's research and development money and their engineers can come up with. So you got to keep that in mind as well. You're getting the full package here. And there's some other things that can help alleviate the pain of owning this long term, such as the fact that this motor, this high output EcoBoost 3.5 liter, is both direct and port injected, so similar to what Toyota does. This won't quite have the same amount of carbon buildup over time if you plan on keeping this for long term. I think overall this is a pretty awesome package. But now that we talked about all the sensible stuff, what if you're a bit mad? So what you saw was me doing a bit of off-roading in it. Nothing too crazy because, if I screw this up or if I get busted doing something stupid, they're going to take these cars away from me for good. So I didn't go too crazy with it. I did a little bit. Mainly all I did was put in 4x4 low mode, and I put in the rock crawl setting. And it just ate up the terrain, no problems. Again, I didn't even push this thing anywhere near its limits, and I never actually gone off-roading either. I was like, my first time, I know nothing about off-roading, and I was not intimidated at all. The Raptor just ate it up, no problem. I challenge you to find a terrain or an environment where the Raptor can't prevail in, because I don't think such a place exists. This thing just eats up anything that you throw at it. And, that's the appeal of this thing, really, that it can do anything that you ask it to, and you can have it out on the roads, and it is so civilized, compliant, comfortable, powerful. It's an awesome machine, man. And don't let this engine or anything like that deter you from checking this thing out, because I really love this motor. I'm a huge fan of it. It pulls really well. And honestly, it doesn't sound half bad either. I think it sounds cool. I like the way this EcoBoost sounds, and the exhaust is pretty cool as well. And this resale value really helps you justify owning one. So that's kind of my thoughts on the driving portion of the Raptor. Let's go ahead and talk about that interior and end this review off. Climbing inside the interior of the Ford Raptor. First of all, thank God for these running boards here. They're an aluminum running board, super sturdy, really nice, specifically made for the Raptor. It's got Raptor written on it. They're not retractable. They do stay there. So if you're a serious off-roader, this will definitely get in the way of your off-roading. But you can, I guess, undo the bolts and take it off that way. But great to have. Makes it much easier to get into. And once you do get in, there's about 7 or 8 acres of space in here. Don't quote me on that, but I don't think you're going to be lacking for space in here anytime soon. You can sell the house and just live in this if you wanted to. This is so immense. But what I liked most about this interior is that everything is so logically laid out. Everything is easy to get to. It's all within arm's length from you, so that's really nice. One of my most favorite things about this interior is actually the door handles. Love the door handles. They're brilliant. But like I was saying before, this vehicle does have like 20 grand worth of options. So what does some of those options include? Well, it's got the carbon fiber package on it. So, not necessary, but it does add, a certain dynamic to the interior. It does, correlate well with the whole Ford performance theme. So I guess I don't mind it, but I probably wouldn't pay up for it. Other things, this vehicle does come with like this almost 10 grand Bang & Olufsen B&O sound system coupled with these leather seats. Not gonna lie, these leather seats are really nice. They're really comfortable, supportive, and when I first climbed in here, I was hit with a pungent aroma of leather. I usually don't get into a lot of cars that have leather seats that actually smell like genuine leather, so I'm really happy to see that here. And it does have these cloth inserts for the new model. The B&O sound system, though, I would probably pass on that. It's really not the best sounding system I've heard. It doesn't sound bad, but it's just not worth like the money that they're charging. So there's that. But the more base Raptors do come with a cloth seat, so that's really nice to see, actually. So if you are a serious off-roader, that'll be a lot easier to clean. Although these don't seem too bad either in terms of cleaning. Now this truck does have the 8-inch Ford Sync screen. I was looking around the vehicle. I didn't see or find a hammer to absolutely obliterate the screen with, because this is one of the worst performing screens I've ever seen. Really laggy, doesn't work too well. It's laid out really nice, but it just, the screen performance is really quite poor. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it does lag a lot, this screen. So there's that. Climate control stuff, you know, there's some hard buttons for you, volume knobs, tuning knobs. That's great to see. The climate control got a lot of buttons here, so that's good. However, you have to rely on the screen to see your temperature. So if the screen ever does go out, you can't see what temperature you're setting the climate control at, so that sucks. You do have hard buttons for your heated and cooled seats, which this vehicle does come with. Push button start in this particular model. You got your all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive knobs here, really easy to use right there where you need it, as well as the trailer backup controls. So that's great, and you can plug in a toaster here. I've personally been using it to charge up my batteries for my camera, so I've been enjoying that. This truck, I mean, like I was saying before, ridiculous amounts of space. I mean, this is really, it's not just with this truck. I mean, every truck is like this. They have immense amounts of space. Water bottles for the whole family, the whole soccer team, everything. Everybody's good here. Some more things to talk about. I mean, you can keep talking about this truck all day, but steering wheel, love the steering wheel of this truck. It's bolstered so nicely, and I love the size of it in general. It just matches this truck so well. It does have like the center position thing, so if you're off-roading, you know exactly where the wheel is, so that's great to see. And the way they have the 9-3 grips designed, it's really nice and easy to, you know, grab a gear with the paddle shifter, so that's nice. Tons of little buttons here to control different aspects of the vehicle, like the drive mode selection is here on the steering wheel, as well as your steering wheel setting, whether you want in comfort or sport mode. That's all here. What I like about the gauges is that they give you a physical tachometer and speedometer, so that's great to see. And the center screen is actually, it does a great job showing all your off-road functions as well, so that's nice. And you do get a digital speedometer if you do like that. So overall, I do like the way the center screen is laid out. It's really logical, really easy to use like that, and it gives you a lot of information. If you follow me up here, you got a ton of auxiliary, six auxiliary switches up here for your light bars, your winches, all that, in case you care about that stuff. Garage home link, and this vehicle does come optioned with the panoramic sunroof. It does add a great extra dynamic to the interior. It does offer a lot of light and gives a more airy feel to it, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, overall, I didn't hear too many creaks or rattles with this truck when I had it even up to speed or had it off-road or anything like that. So build quality isn't too terrible. I mean, obviously there's a lot of plastic used here, but you know, nobody's sleeping on top of the dash here, nobody's camping out in here, so I don't mind this interior at all. I think it's really well done. It was a great place to spend time in, so I like the interior. Let's get into the back seat and see what that's like, and talk about the bed and end this review off. Okay, climbing inside of an apartment building. This driver's seat is set to my driving position at 5'11", and it feels like I'm sitting in a Maybach back here. It is absolutely insane. This is the Super Crew model, as I discussed before. And this is really the way to get this truck, man. I mean, this is a toy truck. This is something to haul people in. I mean, it's for everybody to have fun in. I think this is definitely the way to go. Best part is, if you want to use it for more utility, you can actually fold these seats up quite easily. And there's a little tab that you can pull to push them back down again, so that's nice. You do get some ventilation in the rear. That's always nice to see. And you do get two-way heated seats in the rear. No cooled seats, but you still do get the heated seats, which is really nice. You got a couple of USB ports, another house port to plug in another toaster or a PlayStation. Absolutely ridiculous amounts of space. Nobody should have any issues traveling around here. You got the thing in the center with the little cup holders. Overall, I mean, everybody should be traveling in absolute comfort in this thing. It's really nice. So stupid Raptor decals aside, which I believe cost over $1,000, so skip that all day long. We move to the rear, or the bed of the truck, which in most cases would be the most important part, but not so much for this truck because it is a Raptor. It's primarily a toy. But if you look at the key fob, you have this little gimmick right here where you press this twice. The rear tailgate will automatically unlatch itself. It won't go back up the same way, but it doesn't really matter. It's a gimmick regardless. But if you look further, you will find a strip club located in the tailgate, and I will demonstrate that now. Would you look at that? You can learn all kinds of pole dancing behind this truck. You can really perfect your skills if you're a dancer with this truck, and I think that's a really important part of owning a Raptor. You know, it's part of the lifestyle, if you know what I mean. So that's really great to see, and you know, really easy to put this back. You may lose a finger or two doing this, but it's all worth it. You know, for all the skills, all the people you're gonna impress with this. Really nice. Jokes aside, all you need to do really to access the bed of this, like you've been doing for the last 2,000 years, is jump on top of the tire, this thing, get in the bed that way. This is totally unnecessary, but it's there regardless. What I really, in all jokes aside, what I really see this bed as is actually a large trunk, if you will, for like a family to use this as. I'm maybe looking at getting some partitions or something like that put into this bed, just to like keep your stuff in it that way, so it doesn't, you know, roll around or anything like that. Or maybe get some like, you know, big Sterlite plastic boxes and just load it up with that and get a bed cover for it. That's probably how I would use it. Nobody's really going to put a toolbox back here and use it that way. I highly doubt it. This is a 5.5 foot bed. It is large, cavernous, all that stuff, but definitely not worth using this as a work truck, that's for sure. Now, some more practical things to note is that if you do opt for the Super Crew version of it, it does actually tow more than the regular, like, shorter cab version of the Raptor. I believe the Super Crew could tow up to like 7,600 pounds. The regular cab will do like 6,000 pounds. So that's something to note. Something important to note, really, if you're going to actually use this for towing, because, you know, some Raptor owners might use it for that reason. So there is that. But yeah, overall, man, really enjoyed my time with this truck. Let's get into the conclusions now and wrap this video up. So wrapping up my time with the 2019 Ford Raptor, this has been such an awesome experience. This is something that I feel like everybody should experience at least once in their lives. Just driving a Raptor on the road, or, you know, at least be able to do some light mudding in it. It's a ton of fun. It really is. It's been a tremendous experience, and this is something I would really love to own one day. It's really that much fun and that enjoyable to drive on the streets. I don't really understand the hate that this thing gets. I mean, that motor, this 3.5 liter high output EcoBoost V6 is amazing. I mean, I think it sounds just fine. I think it really matches the characteristics of this truck. What I was really blown away by was just how well it handled on the road, where this is gonna spend literally all of its time on anyway. It is, like I said multiple times, super confidence inspiring, and you can just throw this thing around. Yes, there's body roll. Yes, you sit up super high, but it's an awesome driving experience. I can see why a lot of people aspire to, you know, have this to daily drive, essentially. Really, the primary cons of this is obviously the gas mileage. I mean, that's to be expected, but also infotainment. I mean, the Ford Sync was never known for being a great infotainment system anyway. And when you have like a huge off-road vehicle like this with the tires and all that, you're going to be kicking up a lot of mud, dirt, and all that into the paint of this vehicle. So that's something to keep in mind. Again, all of this doesn't matter one bit, really, does it? It is still so awesome to drive, and it is so comfortable, so smooth, and you get interrupted constantly by idiots learning how to drive. And the number one thing that helps you justify owning this is the resale value. That's really primarily what it is. Yes, the off-road capabilities will help sell you on the vehicle, but really what will help you go out and make the purchase is the fact that this will retain so much of its value. You can just dump this after 2 years and not lose a ton of money. So that's really awesome to know. And lastly, it's not a gimmick. It's for real. This is legit. It's just nobody's going to use it the way it's intended. That's the only thing. But this truck is unmatched in really every regard. I mean, nothing really looks like this. There is no truck that can perform the way this thing does. It's an extraordinary beast, and all I can say is it's the best. I mean, what greater compliment can I give it than that? It's number one, and everybody knows that, and this truck really needs no review, does it? But here it is. This is my review. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I had a lot of fun making this review. I had a lot of fun driving it. So I hope to, you know, maybe do some more reviews like this in the future with some cool cars. But this is it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys on my next review. Take care. Goodbye.